Left of the box. In British Columbia, there is an election coming up, and I've covered British Columbia a fair bit recently because their current provincial government is the NDP, run by David Eby. And they did something quite horrific recently. They have announced that they're going to start forcing people into treatment. And who are those people? People with severe addictions, whatever they determine that to be, people with brain injuries or mental health issues. Again, who's determining this? You can go and watch the videos on it. I go into quite a bit detail on that. So, I'm not necessarily a fan of the NDP in British Columbia. The Conservatives are worse. They're so much worse, because I've even pointed out that the Conservatives got mad at David Eby for the forced thing, like the forced treatment thing, because he flip-flopped on it, not because he was doing it, because the Conservatives would be more than happy to do that sort of thing. And yeah, so they have an election coming up, and their Conservative Party there has gone to obscene right-wing tendencies. I covered a bit of it I covered one of them last week. So one of the candidates, conservative candidates last week, or last stream, where she was painting a picture of, like, the SPCA, the animal control can just go around and, get cats and dogs off the streets and put them in good homes and stuff like that. And basically we should be able to do that with people. Just go and round them up and do that sort of thing, comparing people to cats, stray cats and dogs. Well, there's more. There's more of these lovely people that are running for office in British Columbia. So here we have an article from Press Progress. BC Conservative leader John Rustard warned convoy event that kids will be forced to eat bugs. Yeah, he thinks kids will be forced to eat bugs. BC Conservative leader John Rustard delivered a conspiratorial speech at a convoy-linked conference last year where he warned the audience that the children are being forced to eat bugs. Rustard was a headline speaker at the 2023 Reclaiming Canada conference. And so whenever they're talking about convoy, whenever you hear that in Canada, they're talking about the Freedom Convoy, the one that occupied Ottawa for about 3 weeks, full of right-wing, batshit crazy people. Anti-vaxxers, anti-science, horrible, just the worst people. That's who they're talking about here. Like the most right-wing, racist, bigoted people that the Conservatives just love to cozy up to. And there's even footage of Pierre Poilievre running to be the Conservative leader, marching with people in that convoy. So just absolutely horrid people. So whenever you see convoy or convoy link, that's the type of people they're talking about. And that convoy never really went away. It's just you see it in different forms. And there's even still some protests and minor blockades in areas and things of that sort that, again, Pierre Poilievre loves to go visit. An event hosted by a convoy spin-off group called We Unify, the conference was billed as a celebration of the anniversary of the Freedom Convoy. In recognition of the 2022 Freedom Convoy, a second national conference was held in Victoria, British Columbia, to assemble a coalition of leaders, including Brian Pickford, leader of, okay, we don't need to know that. During his speech, Rustard referenced a far-right conspiracy about climate change and bugs. Now, I don't have to read this because we can watch him say it.
Just about a year or two ago now, the new plant was built in Ontario, I think in the Ottawa area. This plant produces 40,000 tons of bug protein for human and animal consumption. 40,000 tons of bug, and there's a second.
I live in Ontario, and yeah, we're eating bugs all the time. Yep, that's in all of our meals. Yep, it's coming straight from the plants into the grocery stores. It's nonstop munching bugs. That's exactly what's happening here in Ontario. What people don't actually know is that you are eating bugs on a regular basis, because all that processed food actually has a percentage allowable of bug contents, because it happens. It happens. And some ingredients in a lot of things that people eat are actually bug related. And in different parts of the world, bug protein is a very good source of protein. And to totally dismiss the idea of eating some bugs is actually fairly racist. Like it all depends on where you are, the type of bug, of course. You can't just eat anything. There's a butterfly conservatory near where I live, and every now and then they'll have a bug feast where they prepare all these different types of bugs for people to go and try out, and I will never do that. But just this conspiracy theory that they're forcing people to eat bugs.
Second plant that's now in the process of being built. This is what they think is the solution. And I can tell you, stopping cows from farting and belching is not going to change the weather. But I tell you what it will do. It'll destroy our quality of life. Limiting our ability to move around in the name of climate change just makes us vulnerable to more government control. It takes away our freedom.
Do you know what prevents people from moving around in climate change? Climate change. Just ask the people down in Florida right now about their ability to move around. And it's a problem. Climate change is an absolute real problem that is happening today. It's already here.
And so that's why when I saw the trucker convoy, and I thought about where we need to be and what they stood for, and those values that they took across this country, and the flag that was raised around the world, my hat's off to those people that took that initiative. Because those are values that we need to fight for. We should not be expecting our kids to eat bugs.
The BC Conservative Party did not respond to a request from Press Progress seeking clarification about Rustard's comments about children eating bugs. And whenever they have that bug feast at the conservatory, they always show pictures of the kids eating bugs. Again, it's optional. You don't have to participate. Like, personally, I would get squigged out by it. But if there's like a ground up bug protein in something that I eat that I can't see, whatever, but then again, I also have a hard time eating meat if the meat still looks like the animal it came from. I'm all for fillets and things of that sort, but if it still has a face, but that's just a me personal squig thing. Like it just squicks me out. But like if there's a bug protein in something that I'm eating, so. But the thing is that we're not forcing it onto people. The idea that the government will force people to eat insects is linked to a conspiracy sparked by World Economic Forum report that highlights why eating insects could help reduce the impacts of climate change. 1 year earlier, a cricket factory in London, Ontario that primarily produces pet food found itself at the center of a global conspiracy theory fueled by misinformation, which often became more outrageous with each iteration. Peter Smith, a researcher with the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, said eating bugs has become a fast-growing conspiracy among the far right. So there was a factory, a cricket factory, that produces pet food. I had pet lizards, and do you know what they ate? Crickets. Hedgehogs, also. There's lots of different pets that will eat it, and they probably do ground it up to make the kibble for cat food and dog food as well. Wouldn't surprise me. But again, just global conspiracy theory full of misinformation. So taking that as like, oh, so there is a cricket factory. They're forcing children to eat bugs from this factory located near Ottawa, even though it says London right here. So back to Peter Smith, the researcher, saying eating the bugs is a phrase that refers to a conspiracy theory we've been seeing quite often a lot of different conspiratorial spaces, but predominantly on the far right. Smith told Press Progress it refers to the idea that not only are alternative protein sources being explored by companies, but it's part of a larger plan to eventually replace meat products. Development goals, which are very ambiguous targets, sometimes kind of loose, set by the United Nations and international development organizations, then get misconstrued to be the fiendish plots to keep everybody inside of urban spaces and outlaw all the fundamental rights and freedoms we've come to enjoy. At another point in the same speech, Rustard suggested climate policy is to blame for mass starvation. I think it's great to use organic and do the best we can in terms of food in our food source, but we're talking about billions of people in the world starving to death because of a policy on climate change, Rustard said. I, for one, am not up for that. Do you know what's going to cause billions to starve? It's literally climate change. Like that is literally happening right now. Rustard had previously come under fire for his anti-scientific views on climate change and his party's link to the Freedom Convoy movement earlier this year. In August 2022, Rustard retweeted a tweet from prominent climate science denier Patrick Moore casting doubt on climate science. Rustard was subsequently removed from the BC Liberal caucus and joined the BC Conservatives as its leader. Remember what I was saying about that crossover between Liberals and Conservatives? Yeah. I can't say I'm surprised that he would be a Liberal and then go join the Conservatives. I've seen that sort of thing all the time where one will switch to the other. The 2024 edition of Reclaiming Canada conference was held in June in the Freedom Convoy leader Tamara Lynch and Chris Babar. The group held the event Tuesday, headlined by the People Party leader Maxime Bernier. Yeah, that's who you want running the province of BC. Conspiracy theorists that think that, the government's trying to force children to eat bugs. But it's not just the leader. So last stream, I focused on a candidate. Here's another candidate for the BC Conservative Party. So Laureen here is just saying, discussing this BC Con candidate is comparing the safety control on guns to the racist dispossession of Japanese Canadians who were forcibly uprooted, incarcerated, and exiled, not just dispossessed. Our history has nothing to do with his desire for firearms.
This is the biggest property grab by a government using order in council since they took away the property of the Japanese in 1942. It's as big as that or bigger. And it's based on targeting a minority, us.
Hey, white man, you ain't the minority. Oh, right, he's talking about gun-toting white men. You're not the minority. You're not the targeted minority. Yes, Canada has gun policies. It's a good thing. I don't think people should be able to have guns. You are not under threat of having your existence and your culture taken away. Just saying, you're safe, white man. You're safe.
It's as big as that or bigger. And it's based on targeting a minority, us, and it's based on a purely ideological war against our culture. That's what this is. This is the...
Yeah, the white man culture in Canada is not under attack. And acknowledging the existence of other cultures doesn't threaten his culture that he's so attached to. Now, the thing is that he's not talking about just in general, like settler colonialism. What he's talking about specifically is he is an absolute gun fanatic. I couldn't believe it when I looked at his Twitter account. Oh my God. So in Canada, we don't have the same issues around guns as in the United States. I know, shocking. The United States has more guns than people, literally. But Canada is also actually really high up there when it comes to percentage of people who own guns and how many guns are in possession. And that's because of a hunting culture, which is not under threat. But, not too long ago, Justin Trudeau stepped in and put a freeze on all sales of handguns and things of that sort. And I'm the type of person where I feel like nobody should be owning guns. Like I am that radical. But I do feel like the checks and balances that we have in this country are good. Like you have to go through training and references and all this sort of stuff in order to get a license to have a gun, including hunting guns and all this sort of stuff. And this is good. And because of that, we have far, far fewer shootings than the United States, even though a lot of our cultural signifiers are the same, like mental health issues and lack of mental health treatment, because in Canada, universal basic healthcare does not include mental health. The games, video games that kids watch, the entertainment, and all that sort of stuff, it's pretty much in line with the United States, but we don't have the same crisis around gun violence. And a lot of that has to do with access. Now, when it comes up to, issues around guns in Canada, I tend to be the type of person that would just like it not to be talked about because I don't want it to become an issue in Canada. So even though I agree with Justin Trudeau putting a freeze on all handguns, I don't know how much it was needed. And then it just made the issue around guns a focus. And I don't want it to be a focus because you have idiots like this guy. So I just scanned his Twitter account. So Sheldon Clare, single father, CNC history instructor, president of Canada's National Firearms Association, community volunteer. Can Canadians use guns for self-protection? Sheldon Clare with Carol, so some sort of podcast. NFA at the United Nations. So that would be, nope. Is that the National Fire Association? Yeah, probably. Let's see. Canadian firearm advocate Sheldon Clare blasts Liberal plan to ban so-called assault rifles. Assault rifles are banned. And they should be banned if they're so-called. Let's see. See this Instagram video by National Firearms Association. So, Bill Blair, you're misleading Canadians. AR-15s have never been military firearms. These sporting arms are the most popular semi-auto rifles in North America, and the tech is 100 years old. Firearms aren't dangerous. Firearms are very dangerous. Deal with crime. Don't punish the lawful for political points. Trudeau is using black rifles to distract from blackface. Vote your passion. Oh, take that, AP style. Court of law rules that Oxford comma is necessary. Huh. That seems very quaint, mixed in with all these other tweets. Kind of feels like one of these is not quite like the other. Let's see. Sporting gun advocate group says recreational weapons are economic drivers. You kind of see where this guy is obsessed. Banning guns won't solve gun violence. It seems handguns are useful for bear defiance. Conservation officers on the mend after shooting and killing grizzly, biting his hand. Like, just you. This is a potential politician in British Columbia right here. I don't want gun culture to come to Canada. I really don't. Like, I don't go to a rally, a protest, an event, a festival, and ever worry about being shot. It's nothing that has ever crossed my mind. We have that benefit here. I've talked with Americans who've come up here for study or anything else, and you see there's this weight lifted off of them that they almost didn't even know that they were carrying because they carry it all the time with the threat of gun violence down in the States. And then when they come up here and it's not there, it's very jarring for them, actually. I worry about the mentality of people that are so dead set on having weapons whose sole purpose is designed for killing things in the hands of everyday people. Like, that's the thing about guns, is that their sole purpose is to kill people. Like, you can't use them to, cut your meat or cut a rope, unless you're very good at targeting. Hammer and nails. Like, there is one use for a gun, and that is to kill things. Kill or severely injure things. And I don't think that type of weapon should be in the hands of everyday citizens because, like we see in the States, when a gun is available, then every argument becomes a firing match. When it's just so readily available that you can turn your anger into that. The statistics in suicide tend to be higher in the United States because of the prevalence of handguns and things, and people using guns to unalive themselves and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, British Columbia. Whew, you have some interesting choices ahead of you from the looks of it. Gun-toting, bug-eating, fearing bug-eating, forced bug-eating. I don't know. Comparing people to cats and dogs, conservatives versus the NDP who will force treatment by literally sending drug addicts and people with brain injuries and mental health illness to actual prisons. Just, could the provinces please not try to be in a competition to who's at the bottom of the barrel at any given time? Like, isn't it supposed to be the king of the castle, you go on top of the hill, as opposed to fighting for the to be the baron of the barrel? Where you're at the bottom of the barrel and you fight to be at the bottom of the barrel. Can we please not have the baron of the barrel?